What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 41, Episode 2. No last time on Survivor, so jumping straight right in. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I feel like we definitely did jump right in. I feel like we didn't really see anything from the aftermath of the previous episode. They were just like, we're going to talk about Brad in a spy shack. And so we were off to the races from the start.
I need a previously on Survivor, even though we watched the episodes 2 times and we do a whole separate podcast video about the show. I honestly didn't really remember what happened last week. So I can only imagine, like, people who only watch it once, they don't think about it, they're not on Reddit, they're not reading about this show on their free time. How do you remember what happened last week?
So, sucks to suck, I guess.
I need the last time on Survivor segment, but like Alyssa said, Brad running through the forest. I thought this segment was sort of funny because Brad, he's 6'5", so he's quite tall, and him sprinting up and down the beach, I don't know, it just sort of reminded me like of a deer running around.
I saw someone say that it reminded them of Tony, and I was like, how does Brad, who is this like long, lanky guy, remind you at all of Tony? Like, I get kind of the similarities in like a demeanor of the like, ah, in the spy shack or whatever, but I feel like that is where the similarity stops. And I also feel like Brad probably isn't as good of a game player as Tony, because I don't think Tony ever like told people like, yeah, I'm about to go into the spy shack. Like, Brad frantically told people at camp before he ran away that he was gonna go spy on.
It's such chaotic energy, like, especially, I don't know, it just makes it so much more funny that he's so tall and like lanky while running through the beach. I don't know, it's just so funny. It reminded me, I guess it's sort of like Tony in Game Changers. So Tony 2.0 creating underground spy bunkers, that's what Brad is doing, except 1.0 Brad here. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, yeah.
There's a delay between when I unmute and when it'll actually unmute me, so that's annoying. But anyways, I feel like Brad is just, he needs to learn how to chill, because Tony only got a 2.0 because his 1.0 was good. I feel like we won't get Brad 2.0 if he keeps being crazy.
Yeah, something interesting he was saying was that he would close his eyes and just listen when he was in the spy shack, not a spy treehouse, a spy just behind some bushes over there by the well.
A
And he would
spy
just
squat.
yeah, a spy lay down and close your eyes, because he was talking about like predators and prey. They could feel that you have eyes on them. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I've never like been hunting or anything, but when you're just in public and you feel like people are looking at you, so you turn and you look and you're like, oh, why was that person staring at me? I feel like that's sort of similar.
Yeah, like, you can kind of feel when somebody's eyes are on you. I feel like in Survivor, you're probably always going to feel like somebody's eyes are on you, though, because you have the camera people. So I feel like if I felt like someone was watching me, especially in like the first couple days of Survivor when you're not as used to the camera, I would probably be like, yeah, I probably am just paranoid because I'm not used to having cameras watch me take a dump or whatever.
Oh my gosh, imagine the camera people chasing Brad along the beach. There's this like YouTube video of like a camera person in like really fast track races, like Olympic level track, and they have to run backwards holding the camera to like get the camera shot of the people. Imagine, that's just so funny.
I always feel bad for the camera people because cameras are heavy. They have to do everything that everyone else does, but with like a 60-pound camera, it's crazy.
The camera people on The Amazing Race having to do that, it's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brad, he overhears JD and Ricard talking about he. So Brad, like he said in the confessional, there's only 3 men on the tribe. So 2 of them were talking. So obviously the he that they're talking about is probably Brad. And JD and Ricard were talking about their ability to trust Brad, yes or no. And Brad is saying that he thinks that JD has an idol, which us as the viewer knows that it's not true, but that is what Brad thinks.
I always think it's so funny when someone is so convinced that someone else has an advantage or something. And then sometimes when they do have an advantage, they're convinced that it works totally different than it does. Like, we'll talk about that later with Tiffany's paranoia. But I feel like that was, yeah, where it's kind of like, it's really kind of funny, but kind of sad.
Yeah, Brad also tells Shan what he heard, which we'll see, good or bad. Shan has a confessional saying Brad is unpredictable. If he could do that to JD and Ricard, he could easily be running and hiding and listening to conversations from me as Shan. I thought that was a good confessional. That's definitely true. You never know since you just met these people. Shan then goes and tells Ricard about Brad listening to their conversation, Ricard and JD's conversation. Then we see Ricard have a confessional saying that was dumb for Brad to do and he wants to vote Brad out, which I think, it could mean that Brad is on the chopping block, but because people see him as like paranoid and chaotic energy around camp. But honestly, it does feel more like this was a funny segment that the editors wanted to just add in here, not really this is Green Tribe strategy or setting us up for a next Green Tribe tribal council. But it just seems like Brad was doing this weird thing. We want to showcase it because it was funny, not so much Brad is the next person off this tribe.
I think it does kind of show you more of tribe dynamics, though, especially because Ricard and JD last episode weren't really like on the same page with each other. And then to show them talking pretty deeply about something kind of shows that their relationship might have changed. Shan is like one of the more powerful players on the Green Tribe, I would say, because she has Ricard's trust. She also apparently has Brad's trust if Brad was willing to tell her, like, hey, I'm going. So I think this was a good relationship building segment for Green Tribe. And I wouldn't say that it necessarily disqualifies Brad from being the next person out of Green Tribe. I think it also could be like the foundations for like next week if they go to Tribal Council. So
I agree. It does look like the preview from next week that Brad might be finding the idol for the Green Camp. So there was like a little small clip of Brad and Shan screaming with each other and hugging. So it does seem like maybe Brad found something. So if all three tribes find the idol, which we'll talk about, maybe Brad won't go because he has an idol.
It's fine.
When we get to it, we have a lot to say about this three-tribe idol thing.
Boy, do I.
But that was the only thing that we saw for the Green Tribe, really, before the immunity challenge, because they didn't go to Tribal Council. The only thing that we really see from the Blue Tribe this episode was Deshawn trying to make fire and then Nasir successfully making fire. I thought this was interesting because good for Deshawn practicing fire beforehand. He was talking about his family making fire a lot before to practice, but then he fails on the island and he can't do it out there because machete versus small knife, definitely a big difference when trying to make fire.
I was going to say, if you're going to practice, go the whole way, man. Like, it's one of those things where they always tell you, like, in school, study the way that you're going to be taking the test. So, like, don't study while you're, like, chilling in bed listening to your music, because then when you're actually in the stressful testing environment, you're not going to be able to do it. So it's like, don't study for a test that you're not allowed to use a calculator with while using a calculator, So if you're not going to have a small knife on the island, don't use a small knife when you're practicing. Or use it.
Can you get a machete off the internet?
You can get anything off the internet. Hold on, I'll look up on eBay if you can buy a machete.
Oh my gosh. Imagine though, for future seasons of Survivor, Alyssa, they're not giving them flint when they lose challenges. They're not even going to give you a machete anymore. They're going to say, use your glasses, use some tree sticks and rub them together. We're not giving you any knives anymore out there. So then you won't even need to practice with a big knife. Anything coming up on there or?
Apparently there's a website called the Knife Depot. Where you can get a machete. So I'm looking at Knife Depot right now.
Do they have the ones that look like the ones on Survivor?
I'm waiting for the page to load. It is loading very slowly. I'm a little bit wary of this site.
Yeah, the government is gonna star you, and then they're gonna come get you.
There are reasons to get machetes that aren't like nefarious. Like people use machetes a lot if they have like yard work and stuff. Like if you have really thick underbrush, you can use a machete. Apparently you can buy a machete for like $25 and it looks like one of the ones they'd have on Survivor, just like a little more high tech where it's not made
Alyssa,
of like wood handle.
That's a steal. Next time on our DIY, for instead of doing a challenge DIY on our channel, we can do a using flint and a machete to make fire DIY. How did you make fire in 30 seconds?
Okay, how are we going to explain to the people we live with, like, oh, that's just my machete box? Like, where are you going to store a machete? This was a tangent we didn't.
Maybe that's why Deshawn practiced with just a knife and not a machete.
He didn't want to have to answer machete questions. But poor Deshawn.
That's just so sad because then Naseer, good for Naseer, he says in a confessional, I don't want to just step in. People might think that's annoying or bossy if I just step in and do things. I've been doing a lot of that, so I want to sit back some. Then he gets a segment about his life growing up in Sri Lanka, and then he literally makes fire in 2 seconds. I didn't even see him touch the machete, and then the clip just showed him with fire.
Yeah, I feel like Naseer definitely kind of stepped into the like old school provider role on this tribe, and I wonder if like the provider role is going to be more important this season because they don't have rice and stuff like that.
That's true. We heard Sydney say that they wanted to vote out Naseer and just take all of his knowledge from him, but now Sydney's saying that they need Naseer, so maybe they don't want to vote him out anymore. Naseer also finds breadfruit a la Yule in Winners at War. So I thought it was good for Naseer. It was a cute segment because Naseer does seem to be fitting into the tribe more, even though people just wanted to maybe use him and vote him out. But now people maybe want to hang out with him more. They like his stories. They like his personality. And it does seem that ratting out Danny and Deshawn last week may have blown over given the amount of time that has passed, which is good because we like Naseer.
Yeah, I think it was good for him that they didn't go to the first tribal council because I feel like otherwise he might have been in trouble. I feel like we've mentioned before on Survivor, like sometimes all you need is time, which is why this condensed season might not end up being as good for some people.
That's true. I feel like Naseer does seem like the type of person who maybe if you went to that first tribal, you would vote him out because of the idle ratting out of Deshawn and Danny. But now that they've gotten to know him, they're like, this dude is chill and he's maybe not playing as hard as we thought. Or yes, we need his survival strategy skills. We need him to find breadfruit. We need him to make fire. So we need to keep this man around.
And I think that also it's like one of those things where they talked about like maybe taking all of his knowledge and then voting him out. And it's like if he's not like a real strategic threat and he's not super annoying, it's honestly just easier for you if you keep him around to keep doing the stuff that he's going to do anyways. And then you can use that vote to get out a strategic threat or something. So hopefully he still has some longevity in the game as like a player and not just a provider, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like we were saying, Blue Tribe, Green Tribe, they didn't go to Tribal. We haven't really seen much of them, and especially the Blue Tribe, we haven't seen much at all besides of the premiere episode because they didn't go to Tribal that episode or this episode. Like Heather, Erica, I don't think they really talked this episode, so maybe Blue Tribe needs to go to Tribal so we can see them some more.
I feel like Heather has been getting a very purple edit. Like, I cannot remember a single thing she said.
She was cheering when she was sitting out of the immunity challenge. I was like, who is sitting out? I don't remember the 6 people on the tribe. Like, who is that?
Yeah,
Alas. So. Xander, before we go to the immunity challenge, he finds the Beware Advantage spooky for October now, Halloween season. So perfect timing. Beware, he reads it. If you take this advantage, it's yours and you must do what it says. Otherwise, you leave it. Alyssa, if you read that after you picked up this parchment, it said take it or leave it, what would you do? Take it or leave it?
I would say leave it, just because like they've made such a big deal about how this season is going to be so much harder than everything else. It is literally called the Beware advantage. Like, I feel like a lot of Survivor advantages are named pretty aptly. Like the Super Idol is an idol with more power. The Beware advantage is possibly something you want to beware of. So,
Alyssa, we can't be that logical. So you're saying they should have named it Super Great Advantage. Take it. Like Alice in Wonderland. Drink
just
it.
as sus. So,
yeah, I agree. I think if you're on the island, maybe in the moment, day 4, this is happening, you take it because it could be something good. But after, for us, seeing what the advantage actually is, I would go back in time and leave it. So maybe for every future Survivor player, if you get anything that is like spooky, beware, like at your own caution or risk, do not open this thing, sort of similar to finding something in a tree and it being bad for you. Like maybe you don't take these things anymore. You only want idols and things that have good names, not beware.
You only want something that you can easily identify as a positive advantage. Because I feel like one of the things about the Beware advantage too is I have a really big problem with how this is balanced, because it just seems like I feel like super idols are really, really OP in like the positive direction. And the Beware advantage is really, really, I guess, UP underpowered. Just because I guess the way that the Beware advantage works is there are 3 different pieces of it, and all 3 pieces have to be found in order for any of them to be of any use whatsoever. In order to like declare that you have found it or whatever, you will have to say a wacky phrase. Xander's is something about butterflies being the spirits of dead relatives. But until all 3 are activated, you don't get to vote at tribal council. So I just feel like it's one of those things where having 1/3 of an idol that might never actually become an idol is already like kind of not really an advantage at all. You need to be like really patient, and people might catch on to something being weird if you keep repeating the same thing about butterflies and dead relatives every tribal, or not every tribal, every immunity challenge. So it's like, I feel like that is already enough of a handicap, because like we saw that half idols in Winners at War didn't really give people that much power in the end. Like I think they had one of the like 2-part idols that was actually successfully played, maybe, I don't remember. But either way, a 3-part idol is already going to be harder than like a regular idol, just because you have to wait for all those 3 parts to be found. And then losing your vote when like you don't know when these other parts are going to be found, or even like if someone finds it, who's going to guarantee that everyone else will be like, oh yeah, I totally want the Beware advantage. Like, it's possible that someone finds it and chooses not to pick it up, and so Xander doesn't have his vote indefinitely. And I feel like that's just
I think it does more harm than good. Like you're saying, it's basically a public idol. A lot of people are going to know. The 3 idol holders will know that who the other 3 people are, because all of the phrases are listed on that first parchment that they get. So the people that they tell will also know who has the idol. Like we see Deshawn knows now. If Brad and Shan find the clue next episode, both of them, that's 2 more people that will know what the phrases are. And Xander said that weird thing last week, maybe he has it and he has to say it again. So they're going to know Xander has the idol. Brad maybe has an idol. Whoever, Deshawn, if he finds it for Blue Tribe, they know who are the 3 people. So it's 3 plus all the people that they tell. So basically it is a public idol. So I think it does do more harm than good. And with the phrases over and over, I do wonder if people will be like, WTF? Why are these people saying these things, and think that they're weird? From Voce's exit interview, he was saying that Xander says a lot of wacky stuff just in general, so they don't think it's that weird for Xander to say the butterfly thing. But the other phrases are basically like broccoli is like small trees, and I'm as confused as a goat on an astroturf, which I feel like this goat one is more something that people might say as like an expression, oh, maybe it's a part of the United States. They have different kinds of phrases or expressions. You could say, yeah, I grew up with this, so I'm going to say it, versus, I don't know, butterflies as dead relatives, bringing that up 3 times, 4 times, if people don't find that clue, people are going to think you're weird. Like, why are you so obsessed with butterflies and dead people?
The thing is, if you're Xander, you've already put out the butterflies are dead relatives. Hopefully, if like Shan and Brad find the piece of paper and they like read the butterflies are dead relatives thing, they'll be like, oh, Xander already said that.
Mm-hmm.
So Xander doesn't have to keep repeating himself until the other 2 idol pieces are found and the other 2 people say their things. So it's like if Brad and Shan find it before the immunity challenge and then say their phrase at immunity, then Xander doesn't say his phrase unless the third person, so let's say it's Deshawn, says his phrase. So it's like Xander at this point doesn't have to say his phrase again until the other 2 phrases have been said. So
I agree. Hopefully Xander is smart and then he just sits back on it, because if Xander next immunity challenge is the first person to answer a question or the first person to bring up the phrase again, it might look a little bit suspicious. But now, like you were saying, he already cast the bait. He casted the line. Other people will hopefully remember or recognize Xander said that weird thing. Maybe he has the idol or the clue for the yellow tribe. So let me, as Deshawn or Brad or whoever, say my line first. And then Xander will remember, oh, broccoli and goats. Let me remember that. If I hear that and Jeff doesn't say anything, I'm going to chime in. And hopefully he does something. I guess you have to be subtle with it. So maybe Xander could say something. He hears someone or both of the other people say their phrase. And then he's like, OMG, that reminds me of that time I woke up and I was so hungry or delusional and I saw my dead relatives and butterflies, like that kind of thing. Not just bringing up it randomly every time or being the first person to talk. It'd be really sus and people be like, yo, kid, why are you so obsessed with this?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully Xander does that. I'm not entirely convinced. I'm not sure at this point if Xander is a super strategic player. Like, he found the beware advantage, but I'm not convinced that he is thinking very far ahead. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
Even though for all of our gripes about this, I thought the segment was funny. Like, if you don't think too much about the game and having to put these 3 idols together and say these weird phrases to make the idol have powers, it's coming back from Ghost Island, it's funny to see people sort of say weird things or maybe embarrass themselves a little bit. So I thought Xander working that into the conversation when Jeff was asking the questions, he did well. It felt very casual and it was just sort of funny to watch, especially because after he said the phrase, then it was like crickets. No one had a response. So I thought that was just
everyone
really funny.
Was kind of just like, what the fuck, Xander? So yeah.
But I agree, it does more harm than good. You have no vote because no one else has found the clue, the idol yet. You have no idol. You have, apparently Xander also can't use the extra vote advantage that he won in episode 1. And because he doesn't have a vote because he doesn't have the idol yet, he can't even use the shot in the dark because he has no vote to wager. So basically, he can't do anything.
Yeah, which is kind of my biggest complaint about the shot in the dark thing, because it basically makes him a non-entity, especially because everyone on his tribe knows, except for maybe, I don't know, does everyone know now? Yeah, because they voted out Voce. And even though Tiffany has her doubts about, that is actually what Xander's, thing does, everyone knows. Evvie and Liana, at least, are like, yeah, we know what's up. So
I wish we got more information on this 3 idol advantage, similar to the shot in the dark advantage last week. I feel like they didn't explain it enough. And so if we're having questions, a lot of other people are probably having questions. So what if Xander got voted out this episode? If Brad and Deshawn, whoever on the other 2 tribes find this clue advantage, do they just keep it and then they're screwed forever because the other one got nullified because Xander got voted out? If Xander was voted out, are they hiding a new Beware advantage out there? Or is it just a 2-idol Beware advantage and not a 3-idol Beware advantage? And like, what if the other 2 are never found? Does Xander just never vote? If it comes merge and you don't merge onto the beach with a Beware advantage, does Xander just never vote again? Like, what happens?
I need explanations, basically.
I know. I'm like, is Xander just screwed forever if no one finds these? But I do feel like if it's like 2 tribal councils and no one has found the other Beware advantages, production is just going to like make them easier to find or also sort of like push people in the right direction, you know? I feel like for something like this, because it is a new advantage, they're not going to just let it disappear, or maybe Xander, if no one has found it by merge, he gets his vote back at merge or something like that. I feel like production wants someone to find this and all 3 people to find it so they can see how it plays out. Be like, they won't just let it disappear or become nullified, you know? They would force someone into it.
I do think that's bad, though, because like we saw how in Survivor SA, when they forced someone into a particular advantage that they really wanted to see used, like it didn't really work out well. Like people used the advantage because they felt like they had to and not because it actually had strategic merit for them. So
same thing. What if the Yellow Tribe finds the Beware advantage? Xander puts it back in the tree. He calls over Evvie, Liana, Tiffany, Voce. He's like, I found this thing. Who wants it? I don't want it. And then the other people say they don't want it. What if no one on the tribe wants it? Then you screw over the other 2 tribes. Or say you're on the other 2 tribes, you find it, but you don't want Xander and Blue Tribe or Green Tribe. You don't want these other people to have an idol. So you will never say that phrase, and you'll just like, you purposefully lose your vote because you don't want Xander to get an idol?
Over.
Yeah, what if you're like, oh, I don't like Xander. He's going to win all the challenges at merge. I found the clue on Green Tribe. I'm not going to say the words, so Xander doesn't get an idol. I screw myself over, but maybe your arch nemesis is Xander, so you don't want him to get one.
Or if you have a solid alliance, you can have your alliance vote Xander out and see like, oh, does it now become a 2-way? And then I can settle for, I don't know, Brad having an idol, but, you know? So
we need the rules of this advantage.
I need a
all
rule
of the tree diagram of if this happens, if that happens, what happens. Like, we need the answers.
Yeah.
Which honestly, this is probably not something that they get on the island, which I think it would be interesting if they got, okay, here is the new advantage. Here is like the rules of the advantage. If you're voted out, it gets rehidden, or maybe it's a legacy advantage and Xander passes it on if he's voted out. Like, can he curse someone with this Beware advantage if he's voted out? I feel like if the people on the cast knew if X happens, if Y happens, if Z happens, then they're able to strategize around it more. But now, like, we have so many questions. They probably have so many questions. And if you could curse someone by, like, giving them this Beware advantage, or if you could not give someone an idol by never saying your phrase to screw with someone, then, like, I feel like maybe someone would do that if they knew all the rules.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways it's good to have some things that are, like, mysteries. But I feel like with Winners at War and the fire tokens never being explained, I feel like people strategized with them incorrectly because they didn't know how to use them. And I feel like that kind of thing is frustrating because it's like, it's more interesting when you can see everyone play at peak strategic like level because they know the rules. So
I was just thinking about that. Nick hoarding fire tokens to like not have any use really out of them. It's just so sad.
Yeah, so whatever.
Xander, he immediately tells Evvie and Voce about this Beware advantage and about the extra vote that he got, which I think it's good and bad. Obviously, we saw maybe it was more bad this episode because then Evvie turns around and sort of wants to vote Xander out because he has all of these advantages. But if it were to be good, it hopefully solidifies a 3-person alliance with Evvie, Voce, Xander, because Xander, he just has been so forthcoming with all of this information. He went to that island last week, did the hike, and he told his tribe that he got an extra vote. He didn't lie about it. This week, he is like finding this Beware advantage. Next second, we see him telling his supposedly two closest allies. So I don't know. I feel like maybe it was a little bit too early. Like he could have waited a day or waited until the challenge and after the first challenge and he said that phrase and no one else did, then maybe bring in other people. But I don't know. It could have worked really well if it solidified an alliance by telling people.
Yeah, I feel like information is currency in Survivor, and I feel like Xander has been very free with his information, which isn't always a good thing.
Alas, I guess we'll see how it works. Maybe the idol will come into play next week because I feel like the production won't want them to not have this clue and they won't want like 3 people, I guess 2 people if someone finds it next week to not have their vote. So I feel like they're going to push it out and maybe it'll be in play next week. But going into the immunity challenge, Jeff, like we were just talking about, asks the question. Xander says that dead relative butterfly thing. And it's a swimming challenge where they do some obstacles and they have a puzzle at the end. Sarah missed out by 1 vote. If she got there, she said she was a long distance competitive swimmer at college. So she could have rocked this challenge.
I feel like the only thing I remember about this challenge was how painfully slow Tiffany was on the balance beam. And it reminded me of that scene in Micronesia where like Sari had her big like overcomer moment and it was just like, yes, you can get off the couch and go play Survivor. Amen. Hallelujah. Except for it was just cringy to watch because it's like her tribe is all waiting for her so they can start on the puzzle and she's moving at like 2 feet per hour.
Oh my gosh. I think it does make more sense to scoot on your butt over the balance beam because the balance beam isn't a regular balance beam on land, but because it's floating in the water, it's even more unstable, So it would make more sense. We saw a lot of people just like crawling over it. It reminded me of if you've ever gone to like those water parks where they have obstacle courses, like the lily pads where you have to run across and like not fall in. It reminded me of that. So it does make more sense to scoot on it rather than try to walk or anything.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things also where like pretty quickly whether or not you're going to be able to make it across because like with balance beams, I feel like you're either good at them or you're not. And like trying 100 times isn't going to make you suddenly be better at balance beams. So
I guess that's another thing to practice. We've always said you should practice balance beams before going out there because they are a staple of Survivors. So it always is astounding when people can't do them that well. Maybe you should practice balance beams on water now because that is next level because balancing while the water is moving, a current, or even like the water is moving like that, it's going to make your balance all weird. So you either have to be good at scooting on your butt or balancing on water balance beams.
I don't even know how you would like practice for that though, because it's not like you can lug one of those things out into the ocean. Like, should we go to Ocean City and like park. I don't think they would be very happy about that, but okay.
Yeah, I guess it's like people making the Ninja Warrior courses in their backyard. You need to install a wave pool in your backyard to stick balance beams in to practice.
Yeah. It's fine.
But it's sort of like what we said in the cast assessment. Blue being the OP team, they win this challenge. Yellow is a hot mess. We sort of said that in the cast assessment, so it's coming true, which is sort of funny. But Blue Tribe, they had Deshawn and Erica on the puzzle again. They won the puzzle for their team last episode in the immunity challenge, so that's something to note. Deshawn, Erica, even though they had a lead after the obstacle course portion, they still won this. They didn't flub it or anything, so they might be 2 people to watch out for, good at puzzles. Green Tribe puzzle was Sarah and Shan on the first episode puzzle. Ricard and JD did the puzzle this time. Yellow puzzle was Liana and Evvie last episode, and Evvie and Voce this time, where Yellow loses, but also they were like really far behind. So it's sort of hard to catch up if you're far behind unless someone else messes up the puzzle to catch up.
Yeah, and I feel like puzzles, it gets easier the closer to the end you get, for most puzzles at least. Like, there's some, like the insanity puzzle where that doesn't apply. But, like, if you're far enough ahead, it's kind of like you would have to be really, really, really dumb not to, like, finish it off. So, yeah.
Yeah, nothing else to note really for the immunity challenge. I'm, like, fast forward through it the second time watching because nothing of note.
Except for that whole Tiffany thing, so.
But at the end of the challenge, the blue tribe, because they won, they get a little advantage. They get to send one person from the losing tribe, the yellow tribe, to that island. And they get to pick someone either from their winning team or from the second place winning team to go to the island with the person from the losing team. So blue tribe, they send Evvie, and Deshawn volunteers to go to this island, which, like we said last week, of why aren't people wanting to go to these reward islands, even though they might have a disadvantage, chances are they might have an advantage as well. So I thought it was good. Deshawn just volunteered and he's like, I want to do it.
Yeah, I thought that was good because I feel like Deshawn also did it in a way that wasn't like, I'm going to go. Like, he did in kind of like a lighthearted, like, hey, that would be cool. So I feel like it doesn't necessarily put more of a target on his back because he wasn't being pushy about it. So.
And now that these people know, so Evvie, Deshawn, they come back, they know it's the exact same thing that the other people did last episode, with strategy around sending people to this island. Supposedly every single immunity challenge, the winning team will get to send 2 people there. Now that you know what it is that you're doing, you're probably going to have to do some kind of risk reward challenge, and hopefully the challenge changes and not just everyone is going to maybe get an extra vote. Like, that will be so lame. I'm hoping these games change at Immunity Island, or at this island. I was thinking they should have named this island because now what do we call it? I was just about to call it Immunity Island, like from Survivor South Africa.
We can call it the Crazy Island, I guess. The Hiking Island.
Yeah. But with the strategy, now you want to send someone from your own team because you want that advantage or potential extra vote, potential advantage for your team alliance. And if, like, you win, you also get the information, the advantage. Like, you want to send people that are in your alliance and on your team. If you're the first place team, you really wouldn't want to send someone from the second place team because you're just giving them a potential advantage. But send someone from the losing team you think might be on the outs, that might need help or like is weak, so you want them around longer because you can beat them, or someone that you think could be a good ally in the future, and then send someone from your team who is in the majority who can report back with all the information.
Yeah, and I feel like this, especially, like, both Deshawn and Evvie knew what had happened the first time that people went to the island. So I feel like that was good because they kind of knew sort of what they were walking into, and they were able to strategize about it while they were on the island together, because Evvie was really upfront with Deshawn, like, hey, if it is what happened last time and it's a risk your vote, I need my vote tonight, so, like, you can get that extra vote. Get your coin, king. So.
Do you think Evvie talked way too much? I feel like if I were Deshawn in that situation, you just met this person, it's 4 days into the game, 5 days into the game, and Evvie is spilling the beans this much. Are you going to be wary of someone like that in the future if they are at a tribe swap or merge? Because, like, you just met them. It's not like, oh, give some, get some. I'm Deshawn. I'm giving you some information. You're giving me some information. And we're maybe working in an alliance. I'm telling you I'm voting this way to garner trust or anything like that. But it's like, y'all just literally met, and Evvie is spilling all the beans about who they want to vote out. They want to vote out Xander. Xander has an extra vote. Xander has the idol. The idol is a 3-tribe idol. I feel like it could come to bite Evvie in the butt eventually, or potentially.
The thing is, I feel like part of it was obviously Evvie wasn't talking the whole time. I feel like the edit focused more on Evvie talking because it was what was relevant to this episode. Like the decision to keep their vote and then telling all of the stuff, like all the reasons they wanted Xander out, was like important to the plot of this episode. And like maybe Deshawn told Evvie stuff that didn't make the cut because it's not actually important right now. And I think one thing Evvie said that like is really smart is they only gave away other people's secrets, basically, which was like Xander is really powerful. He has these advantages. And I feel like that's not going to reflect poorly on them unless Deshawn is like, oh, what if Evvie does the same thing when I tell them about my advantages? But I feel like it's one of those things where it sets up a foundation of trust. And I feel like because we didn't see anything from Deshawn that was like him being sketched out, I feel like if he was sketched out, they should have shown us that. Like, he didn't even mention it, I don't think, in any of his confessionals. So I don't think that we should assume from what was told that Deshawn was sketched out about it. So
I guess, yeah, we never saw any aftermath of Deshawn. Like, it literally just went back to Yellow Team, and then they went to Tribal. So it would be interesting to hear what Deshawn was thinking at that moment, because it was a lot of, oh, Evvie talking, Evvie spilling all the beans. Deshawn is like, oh, yeah, so great. Yeah, nodding, smiling. Yes, great. Like, give me all the info. But it would be interesting to hear in a confessional what he was thinking, so you know it's more truthful, because face to face, he's just going to be smiling. He's not going to say, no, don't give me the information. Like, he's going to fake or be grateful about getting all of the information. But yeah, I think with what you were saying, it does make sense. This was probably like a 4-hour hike at least or something. You know, maybe you can see by the sun how long this segment was, and they stuck a 5-minute clip of Evvie and Deshawn talking where Evvie is spilling all the beans to Deshawn. But I do wonder if Deshawn, hopefully maybe next episode we can see, is he confused why Xander wasn't voted out? Because Evvie was saying that their team, they want to vote out Xander. Xander's going home. He has all of this extra stuff, and potentially come a tribe swap or merge if Deshawn and Evvie are both there, and maybe they're both on the chopping block, or both of their teams, it's maybe like a 6-6 split vote and they need someone to flip. Maybe Xander could be that split vote, because Deshawn could easily be like, Evvie was telling me back in the day that they wanted to vote you out, Xander. Like, everyone on your team. Evvie said, Liana, Tiffany, they all wanted you to go home. And maybe Xander would be like, yo, that is weird. I don't want to work with them anymore. And it sort of really screws over Xander. Everyone knows he has all of these things now. But also, it could maybe help Evvie, because maybe Deshawn thinks, Evvie thought Xander was going home. Xander didn't go home. Voce went home. Maybe Evvie is on the bottom, so I want to bring them in as a alliance member because they're on the bottom. They maybe need people because they were left out of the vote. Maybe that's something Deshawn could think.
Maybe. So, yeah, I would like to see more of his perspective, because right now I feel like we're just supposed to assume, take it at face value, Deshawn is happy that he got an extra vote. So,
I do want to see more from his perspective of this, because I felt like you could have cemented trust if you just gave Deshawn, hey, I'm not going to risk my vote. I'm keeping my vote. I will give you this extra vote. And that could be like handshake deal. Now we are trustworthy. We are buddies. Come a tribe swap or a merge, we'll look out for one another. So it would be interesting. Did Deshawn tell Evvie all the beans from Blue Tribe or not on this hike?
Yeah, so I would like to see more of Blue Tribe. I understand why we're not getting a lot of them, but c'est la vie.
So Evvie goes back to camp. Pre-immunity challenge, though, we saw Evvie saying that they don't want to go to the end with two men in Voce and Xander, which does make sense because based on the numbers from previous seasons, a Reddit user, they actually like did all the math and everything. And on Reddit, they were saying statistically, women are more likely to lose to men in the final 3 and the final 2 than men are likely to lose to women. A woman has only beaten 2 men at the final tribal council three times in the show's history, with Sarah, Sophie, and Natalie White winning, compared to 14 times a man has won in that scenario. So, like, Evvie was right with that statistic, sort of like Angelina saying that women don't find idols as much. I don't know. I feel like maybe it was too early, though, to be thinking of final 3 on day 4, day 5.
The thing is, if they were going to assume that their tribe would keep losing and that it would end up being like a Matt Singh type thing, then yeah, they might have ended up having to go to the final 3 with Xander and Voce. Especially because I feel like very early on, a lot of people like to say like, oh, this is our final 3 or whatever, as a way of like building trust in their initial alliance, even if that ends up not being the truth. And either way, I think it was interesting that it was pointed out. So
I guess it really does depend. Is Evvie, Xander, Voce the tighter 3 than Evvie, Tiffany, Liana as a tight 3? From the edit perspective as a viewer, it's hard to tell who is closer to who. It does just seem like Evvie was maybe closer with Xander and Voce because of all the like sharing of information, but maybe Evvie was truly closer with Tiffany and Liana. So hard to tell there.
Yeah, and I mean, in the end, obviously, Evvie ended up voting out Voce, so must not have been that tight.
So with Tiffany, she is very paranoid. The original plan was seemingly to vote out and blindside Xander so they get rid of all of his extra vote, his idol that isn't an idol yet, and he is like doesn't have a vote this week, so it's better to get him now before maybe he has an idol next week. Tiffany is paranoid that Xander actually has the idol. And so, I don't know, this was just so hard to watch because Evvie literally read the clue. They know what was on the clue. They know what it takes for the idol to be activated, and they know that no one else said the other 2 phrases. But then Tiffany, in all of the scenes that we saw, kept on saying, oh, but what if he does have the idol? Let's plan for that. What if maybe they did say the phrases or you read the clue wrong and he does have the idol? And everyone else was saying, no, there is no possible way he has the idol. We don't even need to plan for that scenario.
I mean, I get it though, because it's like if you're the backup plan or you're the alternate and like you're the one who gets screwed if like something does go wrong, you want to make sure nothing goes wrong. I just feel like it's one of those things where it shows Tiffany maybe doesn't trust Evvie and Liana as much as she should. So I feel like it's one of those things where they are possibly willing to like forgive this paranoia once, but if it becomes like a pattern, like you don't want to play with someone who you have to handhold every time, because someone's paranoia can very easily change into like a last minute change at tribal council and then bad things happen.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, you want to work with her this week, but if Tiffany continues to do this sort of wishy-washy, I need to flip all the votes, if I'm ever going to be the backup vote, I feel like it's going to get annoying. And how can you work with someone like that if it's difficult to trust them? Because we even saw Liana this episode sort of nervous, scared, like I need to persuade Tiffany and try to calm her down so that she doesn't spill the beans or say the vote or try to maybe flip with the guys and get them to vote one of Liana or Evvie out because she's so paranoid that Xander might use the idol and she might go home kind of thing. But even, I don't know, I feel like sometimes in order to build trust, yes, you can see where the votes are going, but also you sort of have to trust Evvie saying that the clue is what they read the clue to be and the idol isn't activated, and just sort of, you know, hope and trust that what Evvie said is true and Xander doesn't have the idol, which they could be like totally BSing you and you get voted out as a blindside, but it's sort of a double-edged sword. You either act too paranoid or not paranoid enough that you get blindsided, I guess.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where if it becomes a pattern, that's where it becomes frustrating or questionable.
Because it does seem like this episode, Evvie and Liana, they wanted to vote Xander out, and they only went with Tiffany's plan to make her stop being paranoid or to calm her down. It doesn't seem that, like, they really wanted to vote out Voce, but they're just going with Tiffany to make her feel better about the vote and to trust them. And it does seem like Tiffany was just very confused about the whole 3-tribe idol thing. If it were a regular idol, I feel like it wouldn't have messed her up so much, but because it had so many moving parts and she didn't get to read the clue, so she was confused about what Evvie was saying. And what Evvie was saying, if you didn't read the clue, you'd be like, you're totally lying. A 3-tribe idol where they say butterflies and dead people and like broccoli, you are making this lie up straight to my face. So I can see where Tiffany was probably coming from, like, all of you people are lying to me, because that would never be an advantage here on Survivor. So that could have led to her paranoia.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like by the time it got to Tribal, it was pretty much settled. Like, everyone seemed to know that it was Voce except for Voce. So I felt kind of bad for him, but...
Which, I guess, in a way, voting Voce out, it does make sense, because it does seem like they brought Xander into the vote and they looped him in that Voce was going to get the votes to go home this week, because after the tribal ended, Xander was like, oh, that was so hard to like watch or witness or whatever. And so it does seem like he was brought in. So that was smart if he was actually brought into the vote, so they don't burn Xander and alienate him this week, because say that idol gets to be activated next week, now Xander has all the advantages on his side. And if it were 3 versus 1, everyone against Xander next week, he would just idle out someone else.
I think it's interesting, though, because they know that Xander doesn't have a vote at this moment, like, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth the gamble that, like, oh, no one is going to find the idol in the next however many days until we go to Tribal. So... I don't know. I feel like Evvie, by telling Xander that Voce was going home, also made sure that she, like, kept the relationship with him. And so I feel like if it does turn out that next week Tiffany is the one who needs to go home, I feel like Evvie hasn't shut that door where Xander will be unwilling to vote for her.
I agree. That's why, like, Xander has all the information. We saw Xander, Evvie, Voce were maybe a tight 3. Xander was telling you all the information. He wasn't lying about things. And for me personally, I feel like it's better to know where all of the advantages and stuff are. So you know Xander has potentially an idol. You know Xander has an extra vote. You and Xander can use that come a tribe swap or merge, especially because you know you're already down 1-2 people and you're probably going to continue losing challenges. Like, you want Xander around because he's always going to be a bigger threat than you. But if it's like Evvie, Liana, Tiffany, is Tiffany the new GOAT of the season already? Like, after she makes it past these next few tribals, and if she can make it to a tribe swap or merge scenario, no one is ever voting Tiffany out. Like, she's just there now.
Yeah, it's very strange. So I guess we'll have to see what happens next time, because it's just interesting, because I feel like now is very early to be making someone into a GOAT, but...
And it would be hard to keep them around forever. I feel like if you were Evvie, I guess, since Evvie is getting a lot of screen time, if maybe you keep Xander and you have to get rid of the all women's thing, because if you have to keep someone around and if Tiffany continues to be paranoid and like very wacky about every single vote, then maybe it's better to cut her, because if you're trying to keep someone like that around, they're going to mess you up, and it's probably very difficult to always, you know, keep that person calm, cool, and collected if they want to go out and be wild.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes it's just not worth the effort of keeping someone just because they'd be an easy win.
You can find a new one at Merge, because, you know, the GOATs will come out then. But Tribal, it was funny because, like, Jeff asks Voce about his whole life story, and Steven and Rob were talking about this on RHAP, and also Voce was saying it in his exit interview with Rob, sort of like, oh, alarm bells went off when he was wondering why Jeff kept on asking him all of these personal questions. And it was interesting because even Steven and Rob were saying, yeah, at tribal councils, you can sort of feel if Jeff is asking certain questions about a player that you know is going home that tribal council. So maybe as a like edit viewer or someone making a TV show, if you start to see that pattern and the storyline, like they need Voce to answer the questions about his life story so they can have a Voce segment before he gets voted out. Like it's super interesting, I think.
It is super interesting. And I wonder if like that's when you know how like when to play your idol or whatever. So yeah.
It could be a bad thing next time with Voce going this week. I think if Evvie, Liana, and Tiffany are like mean to Xander and Xander gets the idol and Xander thinks that it's just going to be a man getting voted out, Xander plays the idol, Evvie, Liana, or Tiffany go home, versus if Voce was here and Tiffany left, Xander, Voce, and Evvie would have a 3-1 and they would vote out Liana, which like we saw this episode, it seemed like they weren't necessarily that close to Liana, but maybe wanted to pull Liana in to bring her into the group to have a majority. But I don't know. I think like Rob and Steven were talking about it, but I think you just have to intentional Matt Sing yourself now. You have to just keep losing to get down to the 2 like a Brains Tribe or like the original Matt Sing with Denise and Malcolm and just go from there and try to beast it out after that. I think they should keep losing and just vote out their whole team.
I mean, a lot of people are saying that part of the reason that Evvie chose to vote out Voce is because they're like up on the Survivor meta and know that intentional Matt Sing might be the way to go.
It would be so interesting. We've talked about it so much of how people probably wouldn't do this purposefully because it is so risky. But now that like it's already starting to happen and the stronger men of the tribe have gotten voted out, the cat is here. Then I think they should do it purposefully. Their whole team should just keep on losing purposefully to vote out everyone.
Yeah, but I guess the flip to that is, are you confident that you are one of the top 2 in your tribe? So
I wonder, Evvie and Xander could totally be if they like meant things and Evvie was lying to Deshawn and like, oh, I didn't really want to vote Xander out and that doesn't come to bite Evvie in the butt coming up, then I think Evvie and Xander could be a power duo and they could use that idol, the extra vote, to vote out Evvie and Liana to get to a 2.
Yeah, so I guess, again, we'll have to see. I have heard whispers on the wind that people think there's not going to be a swap. So maybe the yellow tribe will have to, they made their bed, now they have to lie in it, so.
I guess it will be interesting if there is no swap, but it will be sort of boring if for the next 2 weeks we just see Yellow Tribe go because we don't see any of Green Tribe and Blue Tribe. We're going to come to merge or a tribe swap or whatever at like, I guess it'd be final 14. Maybe they just go straight to merge, but we don't know anyone on the other 2 tribes really. So we need some more like tribe dynamic video clips of the other 2.
Yeah, so we'll put that on our wish list for next week. As always, we love to hear what you guys think of the episode. Do you think that the intentional Matt Sing is the way that Yellow Tribe is going to have to go? Do you wish that we were seeing a little bit more of Blue? Do you have totally different opinions that we have not touched on whatsoever? Let us know in the comments down below, and we will see you guys next week for the next episode.